time out for this much needed session. 2020 has been the talk of the town thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic. And the virus has enforced us the age old quarantine in this modern era of medicine and made us ponder on how we can navigate ourselves through it. So, in today's webinar, we shall be talking about the same, but also we will be able to understand the current situation with the weather changes and the lockout, which has been announced recently. We have with us these amazing doctors who have taken time out from their busy schedule and to educate us and help us with the same. They are also working in the front line with the COVID patients, and hence their inputs will mean a lot to all of us. A big welcome to the three of you. The session will be in form of question and answers, which we have gathered from all around. So Dr. Mihika, Dr. Meera, and I shall be taking the questions. I now request Dr. Meera to introduce our panelists, and then we start with the session.
Good evening, all. I introduce my dear friend, Dr. Pankil Mota, who has done his MS General Surgery and holds a FMAS, DMAS, Delhi University, and FMAS from Maharashtra University degrees. He is certified in the basic upper gastrointestinal endoscopy and is trained for its diagnosis. He is also certified in the basic robotic specialty minimal access surgery and currently working at Sion Hospital and Seven Hill Hospitals managing COVID patients. We also have Dr. Suraj, who is a psychiatrist and specialized in child psychiatry and de-addiction. He is working at Grant Medical College and JJ Hospital. He also owns a nursing home at Jalna, that is at Aurangabad. We welcome Dr. Mansi Mota, who is a homeopath doctor and a nutritionist, also certified in cosmetology, working at Masina Hospital. We welcome you all. Without any delay, can we go for our questions now? So we have heard a lot about coronavirus. So we would like to hear it from you. What is coronavirus and what is COVID-19?
Okay, so what actually is a coronavirus? Coronavirus is actually a large family of viruses been with us since a long time. For example, they are with us from early 2002. So the first coronavirus outbreak was seen in China itself in the form of SARS, if you know. That coronavirus was called as SARS-CoV-1, SARS-CoV-1. And after that, another type of coronavirus, that is MERS, MERS, means Middle East related virus, which had an epidemic in Saudi Arabia approximately around 2012 to 2018. And now, at the latest, we have this SARS-CoV-2 causing COVID-19 pandemic. It started at Wuhan in China. So what are these actually viruses? They are an RNA-based viruses which are very contagious because of their known structures and because of their affinity to some enzymes in our body. They are very contagious. So they have been coming down in different form of strains in us since a long time. Right? So the only thing which is positive about it is the virulence and the death rate of this virus has gone down significantly. For example, if we consider the MERS virus, which was there in 2012, as a case, had a case fatality rate of approximately 37%, as compared to this SARS-CoV-1, which is only around 6.5%. So that is the coronavirus. Now, speaking of coronavirus, there are two terms which have been used: coronavirus and COVID-19. Right? So these are not the same terms. I mean, they are not interchangeable. So what is COVID-19? Now, if you break the word, CO means corona, VI means virus in the disease, and 19 means 2019. It means coronavirus disease of 2019. That is what the name of the disease has been given. So the coronavirus leads to a disease called as COVID-19, right? So these are not the interchangeable ones. Sorry? Sorry?
Hello.
I would request the people to please be on mute. Thank you.
Go on.
Okay. So that's what, that is the coronavirus, and COVID-19 is actually the disease caused by the coronavirus.
Okay. So we have known that the mode of spread is through oral or nasal route. Are there any other modes through which the disease is transmissible?
Dr. Suraj will highlight us regarding the mode of spread of the disease.
Spread. Okay. Based on evidence, there are two modes which are confirmed to spread it. That is droplet and fomite. Okay, in common public. So what is droplet? So in droplet mode, if you come in close contact with patients, means in within 1 meter of the patient who is having some respiratory problems such as coughing or sneezing, then it can happen to you. So it's not just that it can happen from nose and mouth. It can affect you through open wounds. It can also, you can get infected from your eyes when you touch it. Second source is fomite or contact transmission. So during this transmission, if you touch an object where, if suppose someone is suffering from cough and cold and he sneezes there, and if he is by chance COVID positive and you touches the basic surface such as table or chair, so you can get contact with COVID virus. If you touch those contaminated hands, your nose, mouth, eyes, you can get COVID positive. There is one more route which is airborne transmission. So, but in airborne transmission, the source it is specific in specific circumstances when a doctor is performing some endoscopy or he is giving CPR or nebulization, then healthcare workers can get it. Otherwise, airborne transmission is not yet confirmed.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello?
So, sir, we've heard a lot of about a lot of signs and symptoms which we have to look for. But which are the actual ones, and are they changing? So, if we can come to know about what are the actual signs and symptoms we have to look for people affected by this virus.
Exactly. The most common signs and symptoms, I think Dr. Mansi can tell us something about the most common signs and symptoms.
Mansi, you're on mute.
Yeah, unmute yourself.
The most common signs and symptoms are fever, cough. Mostly it is dry cough, but there could be wet cough also, and body ache. The most dangerous and severe symptoms are weakness, breathlessness, and asymptomatic patients. The other severe symptoms are runny nose, sore throat, diarrhea. These are rare but dangerous symptoms.
Okay, so I would like to add here, so the most common patients which we see are in a clinical practice, they are actually asymptomatic. Approximately 80% of patients which we come across, they are asymptomatic. They do not have any symptoms of coronavirus. But however, the symptoms which is just mentioned, they are most common with varying levels of severity. Right? So most common symptoms which we actually see in our clinical practice is no symptoms at all. Right? This is just a common flu. The common flu in layman terms, just sardi khasi, in during the changing seasons which we get, all the constitutional symptoms. It is only those symptoms which are there. Right? Next question.
Is it? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah. Please go on.
So the next most important question what people have, that most of the people who are positive are still asymptomatic and some people land in the ICU. So what causes all that?
Yeah. So this is one of the most common questions which we find in our practices. Some people do not have any symptoms and some people land up in the ICU. It is exactly like some people getting pneumonia and some with the common, some people having just a plain URTI. It all depends on your immune system, how good your immune system is and how good your body can handle the virus. right? There are some people who are definitely on risk. That is, they are diabetic, if they are immunocompromised with using some drugs like chemotherapy, uh, have received organ transplant. That's why their immunity has been compromised, and having some comorbidities like hypertension, tuberculosis, and everything, etc. like that. So in those people, there are very high chances that the disease will be in a severe form. And the extremes of age, if the age is less than 2 years or age is more than 60 years, especially this age group, which is more than 60 years, their immunity tends to suffer, because of which they tend to undergo a severe form of disease. So in this is the kind of population which has to undergo a severe form of disease. Approximately 80% of them, they undergo asymptomatic course. Then there are approximately 15% patients which have a very mild or a moderate kind of symptoms, and then there are those 5% which have a severe form of disease, and out of those there are only 2% who require artificial ventilatory supports. So why is it happening? It is just the immunity and the just how your body reacts to the virus. That is the only thing.
Okay. So, if the patient tests positive, he has quite a bit of symptoms, and the hospital refuses to admit him because there is no place. So, how to take care of that patient at home, or any other services are possible?
Yeah. So now we've reached at a kind of scenario where we do not have the needed number of beds, I feel. So what the government has done is that not each and every patient requires, you know, some patients who have very mild symptoms, like they have very mild fever, low grade fever, cough and cough, which is not that much irritating, or very mild form of symptoms, or also the patients who have just tested positive but who do not have any symptoms, they all are advised to be home quarantined or home isolated, right? So that we have enough number of beds who are for the patients who are actually sick. Now I've come across people, who just call me up randomly at any point of time and the entire day that we are not getting a bed, we are not getting a bed. Now the thing about it is, whenever you are tested positive, you have to make sure that you notify the BMC or the NMMC or TMC or any of the government bodies which are there around you. They will make sure and they will find a bed for you. There is no way that a government can deny a bed for you if you are serious enough. And government has made enough number of beds. Believe me, they have enough number of beds for you. It is just that you should be able to contact them. For that, there is a universal helpline number, 1916, in which you have to notify that you have been tested positive. Then they themselves will allocate a bed for you. And if you want some bed in some private hospital and everything, then please, it is not necessary that you should get admitted in those hospitals itself, because I have seen that patients call me, sir, मेरे को ये hospital में करा दो, मेरे को वो hospital में करा दो. This is not the time to choose your hospitals right now.
Right.
The beds are so scarce that you should take admission wherever you get. And just for the people to know, I am right now working at Seven Hills Hospital myself. I'm here working for next 2 weeks. And in case anyone of you all needs any bed or related any query, you're always free to contact me. But then, still, let me tell you, there are enough number of beds, and government is not denying beds to anyone. This is just a hoax, which I would like to break today.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for that insight. So we've heard that there have been articles saying that homeopathy is effective in the current situation. How effective is it, or are there any other medications we should be taking to, avoid or build our immunity? And do they require any kind of prescription?
Manchi. You have to unmute yourself, Nancy. Unmute.
Ayush Ministry of Health has recommended arsenic album in the potency 30 to everyone, and they have been distributing this medicine for free in certain places. So you arsenic album 30 is only an immunity booster. It is not a preventive. So it is not going to prevent you from getting infected by coronavirus. It will only boost your immunity. So if by chance you get infected, it will be easier for you to fight against the infection. So I would recommend everyone to take arsenic album 30, 4 pills once a day for 3 days continuous, and if required, repeat it in the next month. And no, the prescription is not needed because the government itself is distributing it everywhere. So all the pharmacies uh, have it.
Thank you, Dr. Mansi. We would also like to know that what home preventive measures can we take to protect ourselves from coronavirus?
Okay,
Doctor?
so vitamin C is very important in immunity
Suraj,
boosting.
Suraj. Home prevention, Suraj.
If you want to continue it, you can continue it for immunity, Mansi. I'll say this after.
No, it's okay, you talk.
So home preventive measures, we should always keep in mind that we are bringing the virus from outside. So whenever we go outside our home, such as marketplace or meeting anyone or workplace anywhere, we should be always conscious what we are doing, what we are touching, because the most chances is that we can get infected when we touch something, or whether when we are in contact with some other people. So always wear a mask when you go step outside your house. Carry a sanitizer with you. Whenever if you purchase anything, keep it in a proper basket, whether it's fruits, vegetables, or any other stuff, farsan or sugar or salt, anything. Keep it particularly in some different bag. When you return from outside, first and basic thing, keep that bag on a separate table. Go wash your hand thoroughly for 20 seconds, minimum 20 seconds, with soap. Whenever whatever, if it's fruits, vegetable, you can wash it with sodium hypochlorite solution. After that, after washing with sodium hypochlorite solution, you can wash it in running tap water. So washing fruits and vegetables with potassium permanganate and soap, which was earlier shown, ki sabun se dho lo, it's still controversial topic. No one has any clarification, given clarification for that. Using potassium permanganate, it was age old thing that we all do, ki wash vegetables and everything with potassium permanganate. But potassium permanganate is an antibacterial, it's not antiviral, and COVID-19 is a virus, so it won't affect it. Second thing, after washing your fruits, vegetables, keep your clothes in a separate tub or a bucket, uh, with 20 for 20 minutes with soap water. You can have a bath if you want. Currently, it was mentioned there is no need to wear mask when you are at home, but currently we all suspect that community spread is there. So using mask at home is also being made compulsory. And in new guidelines, they have mentioned to use mask when we are at home. These are few things which you should take care of.
So I would like to add some few points. While being at home, it is necessary that you stay away from elderly population, whichever your elderly population. If you are frequently going out, it is necessary that if possible you stay away from the so your young ones. And if you have symptoms, and even if you have tested negative, stay away from them. Uh, Secondly, washing hands. Performing hand hygiene is very important. It is not necessary that you use an sanitizer all the time. Washing your hands with plain soap for 20 seconds does kill the virus. The virus is a very weak virus. Its envelope breaks immediately with the soap if it comes in contact for at least 20 seconds. So we need to just keep on performing hand hygiene. About the mask, as Dr. Suraj said, it is necessary. Pehle it was just optional. Now it has become necessary to wear a mask at all the times, if possible. If you are feeling you are having some discomfort, you can remove your mask for some time, go to the window, come back, and again wear the mask. It is very necessary. And also about the hand hygiene, you need to clean all your surfaces and everything with the 1% sodium hypochlorite or your
Right
regular,
solution.
uh, liquid soap as well. It will also do. But you have
Yeah.
to keep your floor and the articles and whatever surfaces are there clean. I hope
Okay.
Suraj
You
agrees.
should actually clean all the things which are, hello, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You should always clean, which means such as doorbell, knob of door, which we use regularly. If anyone is visiting our home, such as if we consider a plumber or a mechanic, anyone, so we should first confirm whether he is having fever, cold, cough, any positive history. If possible, we can measure it with thermometer, infrared thermometer, which are currently in market, and we should always ask him to wear mask. And I have made a small video on this. I've shared it with Dr. Pankil. He will forward you, so you can have a just outlook of how to manage it.
So it is said that with better immunity, there are low chances of acquiring the disease. So, what are the food supplements or any fluids which we should take at home so that we build up our immunity or boost our immunity?
I think Dr. Mansi will be able to guide us the best regarding the food stuff.
Okay, so vitamin C is easily available at home in our kitchens. So the sources rich in vitamin C are lemons, obviously. You can have 1 glass of warm water and squeeze half a lemon in it and have it every day. It is a very good immunity booster. Then other fruits like oranges, mangoes, avlas, grapes. These are very good sources of vitamin C. Also tomatoes and you also get vitamin C tablets outside. You can have a tablet every day. Uh, Apart from vitamin C sources, there are green leafy vegetables which help in boosting your immunity. Green leafy vegetables like spinach, kale, broccoli, cabbage, curry leaves. These are rich in vitamin C, vitamin K, iron, and calcium. Then there are stimulants like ginger, garlic, onion, and Indian spices like cloves, black pepper, jeera, turmeric. These are these have antimicrobial properties and help to fight the infection. Then green teas, herbal teas. These are rich in antioxidants. So you can have 1 cup of green tea every day. What you can do is take some lemongrass, mint leaves, and ginger and boil it in a vessel and with water. And you keep it aside for at least 15 to 30 minutes. And in a mug, you can add half a lemon and some honey. And you can add your tea bag to it and then strain the mixture that you made, the concoction. And then you can have it every day.
Okay.
Well, I would
Thank you.
like to say that vitamin D, it is also said to be of a very great, very vital importance building up immunity. In our population, in the Indian population, who comprise of mostly vegetarian people, they are usually having less concentration of the vitamin D in our body. So it's also recommended that you have a sachet of calciferol once a week with milk, or the other alternative is you go in sunlight every morning for 20 minutes, doing some physical exercises if possible. That is the best source of vitamin D, I guess. Uh, so this is one, and I think if not naturally, two things which boost your immunity are the vitamin C and vitamin D, which we are regularly prescribing. So if you find foodstuffs which are high, having a high levels of vitamin C and vitamin D, they will help you boost up your immunity like very well. Also, there is zinc. The food having this zinc and other micronutrients, if you use those food stuff, uh, they will also help you build up your immunity. And these food stuffs are also, I mean, these nutrients are also available in the form of tablets and capsules. So if you do not know that what are the food stuff uh, which will have these nutrients, you can directly have these multivitamin capsules or vitamin C tablets.
Thank you so much. So with this virus, we've also got another thing which is there, which is stress, causing a lot of psychological problems. So how do we remain positive and not let ourselves, feel demoralized with all the negative environment around us?
This is a very, very important issue which needs to be addressed by Dr. Suraj.
Yeah. Hi. Actually, there was two outbreak prior to COVID-19 outbreak. One was H1N1 influenza in 2009, and other was Ebola virus in 2000 from 2014 to 2016. So during these two outbreaks, it was observed that stress, depression, anxiety, and adjustment disorders were the prime psychological issues which people were facing. So commonly when we talk about anxiety, so anxiety is your body's natural response to stress, and stress is feeling of emotional and physical tension. So both anxiety and stress affect us in both behavior, in our behavior, thinking ability, physical health, emotional health. Okay. So what causes all this? The first thing which causes anxiety, stress is lack of adequate knowledge about a particular subject or a topic. If many people, if even they have common cough, common cold, but they don't have exact knowledge about the exposure, anything else. So, but everyone is worried कि it if अगर छीका तो it's COVID-19. Second thing which is causing stress and anxiety is there is no more freedom where we can go. Other thing is there is no money or business has been slowed down. Personal relationship issues, and important thing which causes stress and anxiety is that we don't stay in our present. Either we are thinking of our past or we are planning something about our future. Okay? So what are common changes when we observe during stress or anxiety, during stress, anxiety or depression? I'll just list a few signs and symptoms. So behavioral problem which you will face is irritability. The most important thing is you will get irritable on little or very minor issues. Your irritability, level of irritability as compared to prior to the outbreak will be more. Your energy level, your activity level will be less. There can be increase of use of illegal drugs or alcohol, tobacco. Physical symptoms includes headache, body ache, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, decrease or increase in appetite. There was dryness of mouth. Emotional symptoms includes feeling anxious, fearful, depressed, feeling excess of guilt without any reason. We are not caring or not interested in any other activities. We always feel dull or sad most of the time. So cognitive symptoms or symptoms which are affecting our thinking is that we are not able to concentrate easily. We are not able to remember things which we used to remember very easily early. There is constant worry. there is racing thoughts in our mind. So the second question was how to remain positive, right? So the simple way to stay positive is to relax yourself. So how to relax yourself is we can you have many YouTube videos on yoga, meditation, breathing exercise, chanting Om. These all things can make you relaxed. You can also do stretching exercise, physical exercise in home, such as running or jumping, using skipping, and you have to have a proper sleep schedule. Means if you are currently we are having time, so we can sleep for 7 to 8 hours a day. These are small things to stay positive.
So I'd like to summarize him. So the most important things, which is also important to build up your immunity, is your sleep. You need to have proper sleep. Then you need to stay fit, doing yoga, keep yourself calm, and you need to be close with your loved ones. So these new housey trends are coming up, WhatsApp housey and other kind of WhatsApp games, being with your family. It is very important. See, it is not only you, it is your father, it is your mother, everyone. They'll have, emotional issues. Your father might have some, financial issues and everything. So this is the time all of the family has to come together and be one and fight this situation out as a one family, right? And keep talking to each another so that they can spread positivity. The only way which we can fight this problem is by talking and not taking unnecessary stress. If I think that is what Suraj wanted to say, right? If you want to add something else, Suraj.
No, these are the basic things which can keep you positive. Next, one thing I want to add is to look for stress and symptoms in children. Children usually are will show symptoms and signs such as irritability, excessive worry, sadness, unhealthy eating or sleeping habit, irritability. Other
Why are
points
these
which
symptoms? Why are
positively
these
you should
symptoms
add
getting more and
is
more in
to
children?
reduce, yeah, is
Why
to
are
reduce the
children seeing these
screen
symptoms?
time. Hello,
Why are children seeing these
is to
symptoms?
reduce the screen time. So currently, everyone, including adults and children, everyone, there is excess of screen time. We are watching Netflix, Amazon Prime, or video games and mobile games, everything. So screen time should be reduced, and those time should be spent with family. One more thing is sharing thoughts with your children. Let them speak out. Let them talk to you. Understand them. This is the time, actually this is golden period for all the parents who are having young children, that they can sit peacefully and discuss things. They can play games, indoor games with children. They can solve puzzles. So you should concentrate on this thing.
So what I take from this is, तो बच्चे लोग जो है, they have, this tendency कि हम खेलेंगे. They are always in that play mode, and suddenly they've been brought up in this new closed environment. That's why the anxiety level and the irritability level to the children is increased too much, right? And plus, whatever they are seeing online and in the as on the screen, as Dr. Suraj said, it has it has been affecting the psychology of the small children as well. So it is necessary to control their screen time, as Dr. Suraj said. All right, next question.
Thank you for the insight. As the government, the state government and the central government has declared an unlock, we all would be getting back to our work. So what precautions should we as therapists take at our work premises for ourselves and for our patients' safety?
Okay. Uh, so if you mean If you mean that you want to open up your clinic, so I would recommend, yes, you have to open up your clinics, because I think the therapy, it has been delayed too much. All right. So the patients who need therapy, not only you, I think all the patients who require some kind of therapy, the delay has been too much. I think uh, they should get their part of the therapy. Now, what precautions you have to keep in mind is, you need to have proper barrier between the patient and the doctor. All right. The patient should not come in direct contact with the doctor. In direct contact, I means, now most of the patients I've been told, which you guys handle, they have some kind of symptoms like cold and cough, which are actual symptoms of coronavirus. So we do not actually know that is the patient positive that with that disease or not. So first and foremost is, you should have proper social distancing. All right. I understand it cannot happen between you doctors and the patient. That is why it is necessary that you doctors should be wearing full PPEs. Full PPEs. Only a mask will not suffice. And the masks also need to be of a very good quality. N95 is must. All right. And for PPE, I think most of the, as much as I have seen, I have a friend who is a pediatrician who started working, that the children, they actually get scared because of that PPE. So what has it done is, he has made uh, his PPE more colorful. He sticks pictures, and then actually wears it like a costume, which therefore the children, they actually do not get afraid of the doctor. All right. So first of all, you need to have a good social distancing practice, and then secondly, you need to have a barrier between the doctor and the patient as much as possible. And then after you have treated the patient, there should be a good sanitization time wherever the patient has touched, or wherever whichever place you feel is has infected, you need to clean that place up. And after cleaning that place up, you need to give sufficient contact time with the disinfectant, which is approximately 10 minutes. So that you need to do. And I would also advise that uh, I have been told that you give the patients toys to play. So it would be my recommendation that the patient, he himself gets toys, his toys, and he does not share those toys with any other patient. All right. That can be done. Then about the floor and hygiene and everything, it has to be exactly the same way what we do at home. The floor should be cleaned, and the articles should be cleaned regularly, and if possible, there should be barricading. uh, each patient should be treated in only one compartment or chamber. You can make a kind of chambers, and the patients can be treated in only those chambers. If you Google or search on YouTube, there are many videos, of smart OPD. You can where the doctor never comes in touch with the patient, directly. You can harness those kind of advices. Few of my friends practice on WhatsApp. I mean, they have to see the patient clinically, but then the patient himself does not get anything with himself. For example, his past previous records, he either emails or WhatsApps the doctor beforehand, and the doctor goes to his reports pehle hi, and then sees the patient, so that there are no other article with which the doctor comes in contact with. Then the social distancing we've talked about, and wearing a mask is very important. As I've already said, all the patients should be made to wear masks. If they are not wearing masks, then there are proper face shields available, which there are bigger ones which have just a small slit like opening in the over here, which is covered by plastic, and then they cover up till your shoulder area. These patients can be made to wear all that. For sanitization, you can use any chemical. that is sodium hypochlorite, or even your regular liquid soap with a effective contact period of 20 seconds at least. It will also do. And as much as possible, less number of patients to be taken at any given point of time, so that proper social distancing will be maintained. And if possible, the accompany of the patient, that is their maid or parent or anyone, should not be allowed in your premises. If it is necessary, they can also be allowed with proper mask, and they should be instructed to follow strict social distancing guidelines, and they should be away from other people and doctors itself. Now, what my belief is, the most and the maximum care the person who has to take is the doctors, because if the doctors get infected, the clinic is obviously not going to work, and from the doctors the infection can go to other patients as well. And that is how the community spread is actually happening. So I think they need to wear complete good PPEs. And Baki, Dr. Suraj is already running a nursing home, and he would be able to guide us more about it.
Yeah, hi. What in this case, in the case which Meera and her team is operating, they are having physiotherapy center in which coming in contact with patient is must. You can't just say and guide from behind what to do and what not to do. So using PPE kit is essential and compulsory for those people. You should make it compulsory to use it, because risking your life is something which should be considered first. Secondly, if children are already immunocompromised, they are compromised, their immunity is compromised, means autism, cerebral palsy, or MR, they usually don't have a good immunity. So they can get contact of COVID-19 easily. So first thing is you should take your precaution. Secondly, you can be an active carrier. So if some infected patient come to you, and if you see by chance see 5 more children, so you can give COVID-19 to them. So you should think this first. Secondly, what we do in our hospital is, where we have kept a man. So wherever a patient touch, for example, a wall or a door, or if he sits on a chair, so we directly, means as soon as he leaves, we clean it with sodium hypochlorite within fraction of seconds, so that we can stop spread from our center to other people. That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
I believe you cannot. It is not recommended that you do not you stay away from your patient. You obviously have to come in contact with your patient. I suppose the physiotherapist. So yes, so it is necessary for the doctors, to have full protection for themselves and the patients as well. So PPE kit, one, cleaning your environment, having proper masks for both the patient and the doctors, and also the accompanying person, who, if he is allowed to come. Then reducing the number of patients coming to the OPD at one time. That is very necessary, so that there is not overcrowding. At no point of time the social distancing guideline has to be broken. I understand it cannot be followed with the patient and doctor himself. That is why the doctor has to take the necessary care.
More precaution.
Now understand, the patients who you are going to treat, they tend to have less immunity. Plus, they also require some kind of treatment which is also necessary for their development. So I am addressing right now to both the teacher and the parents, the doctors and the parents. What is important right now is, we cannot deny treatment to your children, but at the same time, it is necessary that you take that much amount of care that your children are not infected. Right? So following proper guidelines is of utmost necessity. And with these guidelines, obviously, any clinic is allowed to work, and I feel they should work because uh, the patients, there is a big backlog already with all the patients. There are serious patients who are not getting attention, and there are patients who actually need therapy and they are not getting it. So with proper sanitization, masks, barriers, social distancing, I think it should be a green signal for the clinics to open now. It's high time.
Thank you, sir. So now that the season is changing, with the rainy season coming up, how is it going to affect the spread of the disease? And yeah, so how the rainy season is going to affect the spread and what precautions we have to take in this season?
Mansi, you want to answer this question? Dr. Mansi?
Yeah. So you have to follow the guidelines given by the government. And since monsoons are here, diseases like malaria and dengue are very common. And getting a fever is not always being infected by coronavirus. It could be malaria or dengue. So if you get this intermittent fever, I advise you to go and see your doctor. The steps that you can follow at home are drink boiled water, uh, avoid uncooked and raw food. Once you bring your fruits and vegetables from outside, wash them thoroughly and cook them well. Do not eat them uncooked or raw. Eat only homemade food. Avoid ordering food from outside. Maintain personal hygiene and also the hygiene of your environment. Um, Mosquitoes are the vehicles through which malaria and dengue spread. So avoid the collection of water around your houses. Uh, the water usually collects in the potholes, and water which is stagnant. For example, if there are any pots or containers in your house which are uncovered and the water is not used for a long time, the mosquitoes can breed in it. So outside on the road, what you can do is spread kerosene on the top so that the breeding can be stopped. Then use mosquito repellents and mosquito nets. Then wear full sleeved clothes. Then watch out for contaminated water sources. Like I said, puddles and pots used in the house. Then make sure that there is enough ventilation in your house. The airflow to and fro should not be stopped. Uh, then avoid getting wet and stay at home. Keep your surroundings clean. Once you come home from outside, make sure you take a bath. And if by any chance you catch a flu, do not share your personal belongings or food with your family. That's it.
Okay. So I would like to add something. Now, Suraj just told us that the spread of coronavirus is by droplet infection. All right. So after what now? What are these droplets? While speaking, while laughing, or while sneezing and everything, there are small drops of saliva which come out of our mouth, right? So these are the drops which are harboring those viruses. And if someone inhales it in any form, that person is known to get infected with that virus. Now with this rainy season, what difference is going to be made is the moisture or humidity in the air is going to increase. Now these droplets, which were known to fall off at a distance of 1 meter, for example, if you sneeze or do whatever, there's a tendency that drops which come out of your mouth, they will go down, fall down after a distance of 1 meter. Now with there being more water, these drops are going to get a kind of medium, so that they will float a little bit and they will fall thoda sa, they will cover some distance and then they will fall off. Okay. And especially aerosol generating procedures, like as Dr. Surat said, for example, if we do a tracheostomy, we do a OGD scopy, laryngoscopy, or any procedures which are generating your aerosols. uh, those small aerosols are actually having that capacity that they can remain in the air or in the environment for approximately 30 minutes and travel at a distance of approximately 10 to 15 feet. Now, this with this humidity in the air, it is known, it is predicted that these drops can travel at a more distance. That is why it has been predicted the infectivity or the contagiousness of this disease is going to increase in this environment. So that is one thing. And secondly, the most important issue which I'm going to address right now is I had this patient, who had leukemia. Who had leukemia means cancer, not leukemia. I'm sorry, lymphoma. He had lymphoma. So when she came to us, we told her that, madam, you have lymphoma. She was like, ठीक है, lymphoma है ना, और कुछ COVID वोविड तो नहीं है ना. So that means the patients have no fear of cancer, but they have that much fear of COVID-19. So let me tell you, the case fatality of COVID-19, case fatality in normal term, in layman term, will be death rate is not more than 6.5 or maximum 7.2. The chance you will die of coronavirus is very less. Now, why am I telling you like this right now? Is because this is the season of dengue malaria. All right, you getting a fever leads to a very high chance that you also might be having dengue and malaria. All right, so you dying or the case fatality of dengue and malaria is comparatively very high if you compare it with COVID-19. So please do not ignore these symptoms. If you have some fever and everything, please do not go and run and do the COVID-19 test. Please also concentrate on these viruses and these parasites. That period has gone when the coronavirus was the alone, king. Now all of these small diseases are also going to come in the picture and ruin everything and make our lives more difficult. But then that is it, which we we have to address, which we have to keep in mind. Uh, so that is what I want to this. And also, yes, the breeding ground of these mosquitoes is usually artificial water collection. I mean, artificial water collection. I mean the fresh water sources. For example, you have a pot, all right, and in the pot, the water keeps on getting collected. This water is clear water, not dirty water. This clear water, but then it keeps on getting collecting. So this kind of artificial water collections near your house, they are breeding grounds of these mosquitoes of dengue and malaria, of course. All right. So you need to make sure that there are no puddles or there are no artificial water collections near your house. If you have fever, then you should make sure that you go to a doctor and get yourself checked. You should not ignore the symptoms. This disease being the level of contagiousness of this disease will increase tremendously during this season. That is why now you have to be more careful of not infecting others and not yourself getting infected with these masks and everything. So that is what I wanted to say.
Yes, sir. So continuing with the same thing, there is a question put up in the chat box saying that when should we get tested for COVID-19 then? So if we get sore throat or cough because of what you just said, and it is the symptoms overlap with malaria and the other things. So when do we get tested for?
So you want to, so when do test for COVID-19? Is that your question?
Yeah, so if symptoms are overlapping with malaria and dengue, like you mentioned, so when do we get tested for COVID-19 with
So
similar?
doing a dengue and malaria test is very easy and it is readily available. All right. So the first thing, if you have fever, your doctor will test you is for dengue and malaria. You will rule that out first, and after that, go for other symptoms. I mean, other diseases. Now, ICMR has laid down few guidelines, and you can do COVID-19 test or RT-PCR. The name of the test is RT-PCR. So the RT-PCR can be done only for a few set of patients. For example, the individuals who have undergone international travels in last 14 days and are symptomatic. Symptomatic means let there be any symptoms. They can undergo tests. If there are laboratory confirmed cases, for example, if you have already been detected with coronavirus earlier and after that you have developed symptoms again, then you can get tested for COVID-19. Any healthcare workers who start developing symptoms, they can be tested for COVID-19. If you have acute severe respiratory illness, I mean, if your symptoms become severe, then you can get tested for COVID-19. If you are a contact, now contact means the person who comes in contact with the patients. If they develop symptoms, then or even if they do not develop symptoms, they can be tested for COVID-19. Apart from this, no other patient can be tested for COVID-19. That is a written guideline by ICMR. And even if your doctor is advising you the test for heck of it, then he will be punished by the law.
Okay, thank you. Meera, you are up next. Dr. Meera?
Like if the person who is infected and is asymptomatic, so you mean to say they shouldn't be tested, or it's not necessary for them to get tested?
I'm sorry,
That's
can you repeat the question?
I was saying that if an individual is asymptomatic, then how should we identify them and what measures can we take?
If the individual is asymptomatic, so we've been given guidelines that we should not test for them. If you feel you have been coming in contact with a COVID positive patient, what you can do is you can home quarantine yourself for 14 days. You cannot be tested for it if you do not have any symptoms.
Okay, thank you.
So, with the COVID vaccine being, so it's not here yet, and we are waiting for it. But we need, Mumbai being a very busy city, we need to go back to work and start slowly. So, how are we supposed to start or cope up with work in factories or offices, or with transport being started shortly? How are we going to cope with that?
I think Suraj can take this question regarding the transport and everything. Suraj.
Hello. Public transportation, during public transportation, actually it's our duty to maintain social distancing. We can't expect everything from government ki local bhi chalu kar do, bus bhi de do. They can provide it, but it's our duty to maintain social distance, to touch what we think. We should think before touching anything. If we are sitting on a surface in a local train, so we should keep a social distance. If we are holding the handle which is there in train, so whether it's clean or not, it's our duty to check it. We can't check everything with a microscope and things, so we can avoid touching everything. In workplaces we can maintain social distancing. Every government is saying to maintain social distancing, but maximum of us are not following it. So this is going to create a big sin in coming future. So the basic guidelines which I told you earlier, how to work outside and how to take care of us inside, the same thing should be followed.
So in short, I summarize wearing a mask, social distancing, and proper
Yeah,
sanitization. I think that should suffice.
these are the
If
basic
if
things.
you are being able to make these things sure, And if you are able to take care of these things, I think you are good to go.
Thank you. There was a case within our workplace itself that one of our colleagues' family member was affected by the COVID, tested positive. But the BMC took almost more than 48 hours to reach because of maybe, I don't know, no reason known. But in such cases, how can we be home equipped? How can we start taking care of the COVID positive tested patient at home itself?
So first of all, if you are being home quarantined, or if you are being home isolated, so you need to have a special room for that patient. All right. So that patient should not come in contact with any of the other family members or relatives or anyone. No one should be allowed to go to his room, and he should not be allowed to come out of his room. Even the food, you should just keep it outside his room, and the patient will open the door, take the plate, and then go inside and close the door. He should be wearing a mask. Compulsorily, you should be wearing a mask. You should not share his uh, uh, utensils and clothes and whatever he is using with anyone else. Now there have been instances that there are these proper guidelines cannot be followed. For example, if in one small room 10 people are staying and one of them comes positive, and there is some delay that he can be admitted to the hospital. So in those situations, it has been mentioned as guidelines that we have to be having a social distance of at least 1 meter, 1 meter to 3 feet. But we, instruct our patients that that distance should be at least of 2 meters. Uh, that social distancing you have to keep. And then if you do not have any kind of symptoms, you can also consult your general practitioner or your family doctor. He will give you a set of medications like vitamins and vitamin C and few supportive medicines. And he might give you also some symptomatic treatment as well, uh, to improve your immunity, to if you have weakness, to improve your strength and everything. So that can be done at home as well. And there is no as such, there is no rocket science to follow in this. You just need to keep that patient isolated. That is what we have to do, nothing else. I hope I have cleared your doubt.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So can we take children and elderly out for essentials like for doctor's appointment or something, or at places where elderlies are staying alone? Can they go out for essential services like buying grocery or something?
Mansi can answer the question. Dr. Mansi.
So, the doctor's appointment, make sure that you have taken the appointment and you do not go without informing the doctor to avoid crowding. Um, Also, after coming back home, make sure that you shower and wash your hands. Do not touch anything in the house. And essential activities like buying groceries or doctor's appointment is fine, but going out for walks and exercises that can be done at home. There's no need to step out for this. Uh, Also, the immunity of small children and old people, it's uh, it's lower than the younger generation. So we must take care that they are not exposed to infections outside. Since it is monsoon, the chances of catching a cold or flu are very high. So, if there are younger people in the house, you can send them to buy groceries and let the elder people stay at home.
Okay, that I don't. I would like to summarize this as there is no restriction that they should not go out for essential activities. Now, the word essential in itself means that it is essential. Now, physical activity means going for a walk is not essential. right? So it is for them to decide what is essential, what is not essential. Age group more than 60 years means they are vulnerable, right? It is advised for them that how much ever possible they should stay inside. But if required at all and very unnecessary, there is no restriction that they cannot go outside.
Okay. So, as we are getting a lot of information from news channels and other social media, so which are the best guidelines and from where do we have to read the perfect guidelines for COVID-19?
I think Mansi is taking this question, right?
Yeah. Uh, do not read and follow all the articles. Like, do not follow everything that the social media tells you, because it could be a rumor too. So follow the guidelines given by the government, WHO, and if you still have doubts, consult your physician, ask your doctor what is right and what is to be followed. Take breaks from social media and news. It will help to keep you stay calm and avoid anxiety.
In short, what you need to believe is us, no one else. Us and obviously your government guidelines which are there. You know, there have been all the Tom and Harrys who have been sending all sort of guidelines through WhatsApp nowadays. So there are so many guidelines that people are actually getting confused. Your question is very right. So if you have those set of questions, there are government helplines which are there, and obviously there are your family doctors with whom you should consult, uh, and not follow all of those, ban karke.
Thank you,
So
sir.
there's a question in the chat asking whether the government hospital conditions are good enough or than the private ones. Because if we are going through the BMC, they are going to take us to the the government hospitals. And looking at some of the videos which have been circulating of some of the hospitals, the condition there does not look very favorable. So how do we decide on what has to be done? Like you said, you don't have an option on choosing.
See, I work at a government hospital. I, uh, so why the condition of those hospitals are such? It is because of the lack of manpower. But then I assure you that enough of measures have been taken to improve the quality of life of the patients over there as well. So right now, the videos which have been getting circulated, I very well know what you're talking about. But then the problem was of some administrative level, and which has been solved. And currently, I'm working in Seven Hospital. It is no less than a private hospital. It is giving you good facilities, and I don't see any difference between Seven Hills and your other private hospitals, I would like to say. So the conditions are same. There is, and moreover, now how are we treating this disease? We are actually not treating this disease. We're just taking care of you. We're just treating you symptomatically. There is no actual treatment of this disease. You know, so at a government hospital or at a private hospital, it does not make any difference, I feel. But then obviously, if you that the maximum of the concerns which I have seen is, the higher class people. Okay, they do not like to share their spaces with some other kind of people. You need to get out of those dilemma, and you need to get out of the space. I feel, and if it matters that much to you, then you can get admitted at the private hospitals. Otherwise, there is no difference.
Thank you.
As everything is slowly opening up, flights have started running, and if a person has to travel outside the city or state, or even after the international flights resume, how and what precautions should be taken in that current situation?
I think Suraj has already answered that. I feel he will. You should just summarize it once quickly.
Basic precaution which should be taken is mask, sanitizer to keep social distancing. Secondly, I would like to add, if you are traveling outside the city or interstate, if you are traveling in a car, so make sure your driver does not have any symptoms, positive symptoms. Okay. Second thing is avoid AC, because if by chance there are three people in car, anyone is affected and he is a carrier. So during from AC, the virus can circulate if he sneezes or cough or if he touches anything. Rest, I think everything has been answered earlier. There is nothing exceptional that we can do.
So there is this mantra: mask, sanitizer. That means hygiene and social distancing. These three guidelines have to be followed.
Okay, I think we are done with the questions what were told to us. So if from the audience there is anyone who wants to ask, otherwise we come to the end of the session. Are there any questions? I guess we've covered almost everything, sir. So I think we can come to the end of the session. It was very, very informative, and I'm sure we all shall take extra care and precautions to curb the virus. I extend my gratitude to all of you, all three of you, for enlightening us and being there, and clearing out certain ideas which we had. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again.
Okay, I would like to
There's one
just
question in the chat box, Purna.
sure.
I'm so sorry. Okay, this is a good question which even I had. Can we switch on the aircon in the room, AC in the room, and how will it affect us? Or should we keep the windows open?
Now, as Dr. Suraj has said, now what does AC do? AC just keeps on circulating your air inside. There is no actual ventilation which is happening. And now, if you have an actual patient with you, and if he sneezes or by any chance releases a droplet, which we've already spoken about. So, what will happen? That droplet will keep on circulating in your room. All right. And there are chances that other people who are there in the room might get affected. Now, how do we get through this? Is we just keep your AC on. That is okay. And at the same time, you keep your windows also open, so that with the negative suction effect of the windows, all the air will be sucked out, and the proper ventilation, the circulation of the air will keep on happening. So using an AC is not is not banned, but it should be avoided. It should be avoided. If you have good ventilation facility, then you can use your ACs.
I would like to add, there was no guidelines which mentioned not to use AC. It was only a precautionary measure. Due to AC, you can get cough and cold. Okay? So no one has told not to use or ban on AC use.
So I would like to ask one more thing. So in the hospital, there is centralized AC. So is there any possibility that the virus spread through the same ducts or something?
That was the reason use of AC was avoided. Because in centralized AC, if a virus can spread easily to all the rooms and everyone can get affected. That was the main reason. So currently in our city, so maximum using fan and opening of windows, which is quite helpful. And as Dr. Pankil told, while if someone is truly having a packed setting, he can't do anything. So he can, if there is no window, so he can keep the door open, let the air go and come. That's the only thing he can do.
And just to clear your doubt, in this big hospitals who have this centralized AC, there is not the only air which is getting circulated. They always have this sort of ventilatory mechanism. When in our OT premises, it is a closed environment and it is a air conditioned environment, but there is continuous exchange of air which is being happening. All right. So in those cases, it is not that we being in AC that means we will be contracted with the virus and everything. So the proper, I think, the solution to this problem is with air condition, you should have some sort of ventilatory mechanism.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes. So I think we can we come to the end of the session. Are there any other questions?
From my side, I would like to tell that I am working at Sion Hospital, and currently, right now, I have been posted at Seven Hills Hospital. So the doubt which people had, कि bed नहीं मिलेगा, ये नहीं मिलेगा ना, वो नहीं मिलेगा ना. If anyone needs a bed, they can they are they can feel free to contact me at any point of time, and I will help you getting a bed at Seven Hospital or anywhere else.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. So maybe we can share your number later on with all the participants, so that if they need help, they can get in touch with you directly. That really means a lot. With that, I think we end the session. Thank you so much, all three of you again. Thank you, Dr. Mika and Dr. Meera, for being there for asking questions. And thank you, participants, for being there and hearing us. And we hope that we could help you a bit. And we really hope and pray that this goes out soon. The virus comes to an end very soon. Thank you so much.
For a vote of thanks, and I will always say this. Uh, in this period, it is very important that we ourselves become very disciplined. Means now, if government has said बाहर निकलना है तो mask पहन के निकलना है, तो it is our duty, to wear a mask and leave. If we are disciplined, if we ठान लेंगे हम कि नहीं, we have to fight this coronavirus, only then we can fight this situation. It has been said that prevention is better than cure. In our medical fraternity, there is a statement we use: prevention is better than cure. But in this situation, I will slightly modify the statement as the prevention is the only cure. It is only with this preventive measures we can, actually fight this disease. The Mumbai right now is in phase 3. We can control this disease with this social distancing guidelines and all the guidelines which the government has laid down. We can actually control this disease. We are not in a condition like New York, Italy, or Spain. So please, please, please follow all the guidelines strictly. Stay disciplined, and please stay cheerful and stay stressless. Thank you so much. I would like to thank Mansi and Suraj as well for being my accompany and my support for a long term now. Thank you so much. And also thank you to the SNE for giving us this opportunity that we could share our a little bit of knowledge and actually, drive the fearness and anxiousness of people regarding this disease out of the people. Thank you so much.
I think that was very much needed. So thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.